Hi everyone. First off, I'd like to thank you all for having me. This is my actually first time at this meetup. It looks to be a pretty active and great crowd from those I've spoken to so far. Now to get started, my name is Yair Aviner. I'm the CTO at Hublished. I'm joined by the two glass-clad guys here, Kyle and Chris. They're developers for us. I'm also an undergraduate at the Rutgers Business School, so kind of doing this on the side, doing school on the side of this. So. Anyway, let's get started then. So Hublished, to start off, as our main tagline, I guess, is Hublished is a community for businesses to share and discover webinars and white papers. Now, what is a webinar, what is a white paper, and why do we care in this particular instance? Now, we see these as part of the bigger content movement. Now, as many of you know, in business-to-business marketing, it's not exactly the funny and clever ads that'll draw people in. It's expertise, it's authority. It's knowing that you're going to be buying from somebody who is trusted and knows what they're doing. And the response to this is to put out content that people can learn to trust you by, that will share and impart value to your potential customers. And webinars and white papers are at the very forefront of this. They are leading the charge. And it's not just us noticing this. Forbes, B2B Magazine, and eMarketer have all noted that content marketing is the single best practice for B2B marketers in 2013. And companies have been responding. In a single year alone, businesses have been spending an increase from 19 to 35% of their total non-personnel marketing spend on content marketing. So we've seen this big shift, and it's a continuing trend. And of them all, webinars are the most effective, have the highest ROI, and are the best at converting leads. So this whole picture sounds very rosy. This is a practice which is growing at a phenomenal rate. If you look at Google Trends, the webinar search rates are shooting through the roof. So then what could be the problem? Why are we building a platform for this? And so to illustrate that, I want to walk you through what a regular marketer might have to do just to get their feet wet to host a single webinar, and the process to do so. So before starting out, they might want to build some expertise on their own. They might join a site like Quora, right, which is great for building expertise, and there's been a lot of them in the news, but that's a first step. Now, then they have some kind of following, or they know people from before, and they decide that they want to host their webinar. They'll go to GoToMeeting, WebEx, MegaMeeting, any of these providers in order to actually upload their content so that they can have it in the future. Then, to get people to sign up, they'll post it on Eventbrite, so that registration will be handled very easily. Now, Eventbrite is not really meant for online events. Eventbrite is better for meetup type things, but it does the job and people have been using it. But what Eventbrite doesn't do is it doesn't market things for you. And so to that, they'll turn to their traditional channels. They'll turn to LinkedIn, to their email list, to Facebook. They'll blast it out to their Twitter followers. And these people, in general, do respond to different varying levels. But again, these are only the people who they've already made contact with, the people who already know about them. And they'll host a webinar, and those people who they had contact with before will join, and they'll enjoy it. And then afterwards, they may want to continue engaging with them. So they'll upload the slides to SlideShare, which is our predominant PowerPoint hosting website on the internet, or they may put it on YouTube, which is, as we know, our general purpose site. And we know that this is an issue because some of our favorite companies host webinars all the time that we don't know about because we're not on their lists. For example, SendGrid hosted a webinar on tips and tricks to stay out of the spam folder. Now, for those of you who don't know, SendGrid is a fantastic company that is dedicated to email delivery, keeping you out of the spam folder, making sure that your deliverability rates are very high. And we would have used them actually 8 months ago starting out, but we didn't know about them because we didn't see this webinar because we weren't following them on Twitter. And actually, we're testing them out right now, but we would have done it a long time ago. Zendesk, a leader in customer satisfaction, held a webinar, Turning Grants into Reeves, How to Capture the Customer's Heart. We didn't hear about it because they blasted it out to their email subscribers. And Harvard Business Review, I never saw this one, but they posed a question, does success require sleeping with your smartphone? I don't know the answer to that, but if you want to find it, you have to find them on LinkedIn. So that's why we're building Hublished. Hublished is the convention in the cloud where businesses and the potential leads can meet over their expert content. It's finally a site which is actually dedicated to webinars and to some extent white papers. Now, what do we do to help that process? How do we help the entire problem here? The first thing we offer is discovery. To a peer, as we call them, who comes onto the site looking for content, we aid in discovery. We recommend content to you based on what you've already watched. We have trending and recent modules which help you discover things that are trending on the site. And obviously, we have the tried and true search for those who know what they're looking for. We provide easy and convenient access to the content. For those of you who have signed up for a webinar in the past, you know that it's not exactly the most straightforward. You have to, before getting onto the webinar, you have to provide your name, your email. Sometimes they ask you more information, and this happens at every single sign-up. Those of you who have joined on to, say, a webinar from HubSpot know that every single time you have to fill out your information. With us, it's a one-click sign-up, and from then on, we send out emails to remind you when things are coming up, and we alert you when new things are coming on. Now, once you've enjoyed the content from a publisher, we make it streamlined for you to access more content from them. This is what we call the publisher stage. This is their portal to the rest of the world unpublished. You're able to see all of their past content, all of their upcoming content, a little bit about them, and this is a place where you'd be able to engage with that publisher on a higher level, so you can one day become a paying customer of theirs, hopefully. And to top it off, at the end, everything is measured. We have real-time analytics providing data on how users are engaging with your content, how that engagement compares to your competitors in the same fields. And we can see what they're doing when they come to your page, much like other analytics software, which you're all familiar with. And that, in a nutshell, is what Published is doing. There are other features, but these are the main core. Now, we've been in development for the past 12 months. We're actually about to enter a open beta in about 2 weeks. Our entire team is 7 of us. There's the 3 of us here. Our executive team, along with myself, is rounded out with Nis Fromm and Ben Borodak, students at Rutgers and NYU, respectively. They weren't able to be here tonight because they're at a TechCrunch interview, which will actually be live tomorrow. Our next project we'll be working on being everywhere at once. We also have Carlos Espina, who's an award-winning project manager from IBM, and Alex Lau, a lead developer who worked in private consulting for 3 years. And that's Published. Discover better. Now I'll take questions. I saw your hand shoot up.
So you say that you can go to your site and see where things are trending.
Yes.
How do you know where it's trending? Do you go and invite yourself to like as many webinars as possible?
Well, no. We collect data from what users are doing on the site. So we see what content is most searched for, what people are signing up for the most, also based on publishers' recent history. So if a publisher isn't putting out a lot of hot content, they'll be quicker to jump to the trending list. And so on your profile, right when you log in, you actually have a list of the 3 most popular pieces of content on the site, whether webinars or white papers. Did that answer the question?
You
Okay.
said
Sure.
you compare to your competitors, so
Correct.
competitors on the site
Of course.
could be pretty limited in the beginning.
In the beginning, and there is certainly a question of generating more users so we have that data, but that'll be with any social site.
How are you going to do that?
So how are we going to bring? Okay, so the chicken and egg problem of publishers and peers is obviously one to solve. Our strategy is to target, as our main demographic, the marketing consultants, those who are working and actively helping to distribute content for companies who are already pushing it out. They, in turn, will invite their users, who they already know, and that will start the cycle. Sure.
What about constant contact? It seems like you...
Constant contacts.
Can you do also what they do? Because I'm tired of constant contact, so if you're an option, great.
Right now, we do send out email notifications for content. Right now, we're not focusing on being a all-in-one spot to send out email to your potential leads. That may be a plan for the future, but as of now, we're staying focused on the webinar side and send notifications just for that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, I saw your hand up for a while.
I got 2 questions.
Sure.
One, how do you guys make money? And 2, so if I'm understanding it correctly, I, as a person who put a webinar out there,
Yeah.
I give it to you, it's on your website. We also put it on our website, and we have archives
Yeah.
For prospects to look at. How would they find it on your site versus finding it on mine? Why would I want to put it on yours? Why would a prospect find it on your site better than finding it on my site?
Those are both great questions. For our first one, for the revenue models, as to start out, as we are a social media site, it will be free to start. Our potential revenue models, simply put here, are the first and foremost would be a freemium model. That would be publishers would gain access to a limited number of signups, which we consider to be qualified leads in the traditional sense, per month. And once they see that threshold, it becomes a pay per lead kind of model, similar to MailChimp, who kind of pioneered the freemium to an extent. Other options for us would be pay per click from the very start, hosting premium content. As publishers right now do host premium paid webinars. It's not something that we focus on right now, but it is a potential area that we could go into. And finally, analytics. That would be providing premium analytical data on your content. That would be kind of like a plus version of the site. So that would be the revenue models. We don't have any implemented right now. We're obviously still testing things out and validating. As for why somebody would go to Published rather than your own site. Sure. So let's say you're a user interested in SEO and you want to find somebody who has put out good content on that, somebody you can trust to handle your business's SEO efforts. And you search online for a webinar on that, and then you're brought to your company's page. Let's say you do SEO. Every single person who has gone through this process and has found your site, they're always guinea pigs. They're always testing out for the first time whether your company is putting out quality content. Now, because we grant scores to publishers based on their content and to the content itself, and because of the deeply ingrained commenting system, we work with Twitter, users can watch content with confidence. And they'll also be able to compare you directly to competitors, which may or may not be a good thing. But the idea is that the content is vetted beforehand and is a repository, so they know that no matter what they're looking for, they'll be able to find a company that hosts it. In addition, how would people normally find your content on your own site? They would have to know about you.
How would they know about you?
Well, that is, again, the question of bringing the users on the site. So, again, what I said before about targeting marketing consultants, bringing users on the site, obviously things have to get rolling to make that effective. Did that answer it well?
It seems like Google search. I mean, it sounds like
The search function itself, yep, but if you search on Google for a webinar now, you'll be lucky to find a webinar on anything you search for. Sure.
Yeah, it seems like the SEO is the way to get people to your site. But
Okay.
how will you seed the content so that there is a lot of stuff there at the beginning and people will find you?
Right. We've been in private testing with many brands so far to get feedback on what they would want on the site, but also to ensure that when we go live, that they'll be able and willing to put up a lot of content. At the beginning, things can be a little bit sparse. We can go out and we will be reaching out to companies who already host content. So we'll be sure to be gathering the publishers who are very active and bring them on the site so we can build up the collection as quickly as possible.
Any
Sure.
streaming video on the site?
Yeah, actually, I thought I mentioned this earlier, but sorry if I haven't. But after the webinar has gone live, a major component of the site is actually you can upload the recorded webinar, and that's actually what shows up in past content and in your hub, which is your personal library of content. And we encode, store, and stream the content all on our own servers.
Talking about live streaming.
For the sake of flexibility, we've chosen to let publishers use whichever webinar software provider they already use. So if they're comfortable with WebEx, they like WebEx's feature set, they can continue using WebEx. The only thing that they need to provide to us is the registration link so that we can handle that and direct people to the right place. Okay, saw a question back there.
I got you. Who owns the user registration data?
Who owns it?
And then the second one is there features like ratings and reviews so that you can rate content that you've seen so others aren't stumbling to it, or even by provider if you're not trusted?
Right. Remind me the first question again?
Who owns the registration?
The registration data we own, but we're committed to not divulging, selling out any personal data. We really just pass along email addresses when it comes to signing up for content. As for the ratings, ratings are built into the system in grains. We obviously have the simple thumbs up, thumbs down, but we also generate ratings based on a lot of metadata about user behavior. So people content which is very popular within its own field, content which is being watched all the way to the end. For example, if you have a 45-minute webinar and the average user stays on for 4 minutes, your rating will be a bit lower. So we collect all that data and we try to generate a score for each piece of content, and those all contribute to the publisher score so that you can have a fairly reliable predictor of the quality of somebody's upcoming content. Sure. Other questions?
First of all, I think it's a very clever idea.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And secondly, tell me a little bit more about your marketing and your advertising plan. For example, I do webinars to doctors. Are you going to advertise to a variety of medical associations, let's say legal associations?
Okay.
Letting them know that this is available, and then you have to go out and find companies that are willing to post a webinar, that kind of thing?
It's a good question. To start off, we are going after the marketing consultants who may be in any industry. Right? There's the people working for medical or any kind of professional field in general. And we're actively reaching out to anybody who we find is actively publishing. Those are the people who will be using the site most actively. It is our hope that we'll spread across many market verticals so that every industry, I think that the medical profession could use this very, very well. I know, especially in pharmaceuticals, they require webinars and that kind of content to continue degree credits. But even in general, just for spreading expertise, we do see it as a very viable product for those industries. And that will be one that we'll be hitting. Yeah.
Why would we pick you over existing companies?
Which existing companies?
I don't know.
Well, if that's a question about our competitors, we actually, as far as our market research has gone, we don't have any direct competitors. We have component competitors. We have competitors who emulate certain functions of the site. We have Core, which helps you establish expertise, and they have some social curation, but there's no event component of it. There's no recorded content. It doesn't really apply to them. Eventbrite allows you to browse, so this chart here gives you a fairly good rundown of some of the features which we incorporate, which some other companies have, or methods as in social media, have done fairly good jobs in those areas. But as far as having an all-in-one platform to manage all of this, none like that exists right now. So you got your hand up?
So what's to prevent all these companies to see that you're successful and just do what you've done?
Well, obviously there is hoping. But we filed a provisional patent on some of our technologies, and we're trying to develop and get out in the market fast enough that we'll be able to establish a meaningful user base. Obviously, that's a risk for any new social startup.
That's a potential acquirer.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to copy your technology,
Pretty much.
maybe they want to buy it. George can.
Thank you.
What's your initial niche content area?
Niche content area. We've seen a lot of interest in.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
what area do you plan on starting off in? Because you can go in marketing very different areas.
Of course.
And you have a broad spectrum of content.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out what is your niche going to start off in, because you got to get all the users that are attracted to that particular niche.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not going to grow your user base.
Of course.
Your user base, your saturation is shot. So that's what you have to get something on. So what do you see as niche?
We focused primarily in our efforts so far on companies that it's a little bit broad, but in professional services. So we've definitely targeted legal firms. We've targeted firms that have specialized in social media, and other consulting firms. And those have been some, but not all of who we've targeted. We do recognize the need to go a bit deep before we spread wide, and we definitely recognize that need. That's who we've targeted to start off, but obviously we'll see where things will take us in the next few months. We're not going to turn down somebody because they're in a field that we don't have anything yet on. Okay.
Just I've dealt with social sites before. So making sure that you have a very tight niche and getting a lot of people in that area is really important. If you go too broad, people will see as they're testing out your software, you get them on board, and all of a sudden they're like, well, I thought I was supposed to do this, and it doesn't do it because you didn't have enough content generally. So you have to watch out for those content-driven
Right. For sure, we'll be monitoring and directing things to see where the market is going and try to capitalize where we'll have the most activity. So we will try to avoid that issue of having a dead area of the site. Okay. So
I was gonna say if we.
where's that time?
If we're good, maybe we'll
Okay.
just talk a little bit later.
All right. I'll
and,
be around after.